Welcome to the Red Handophiles for lovers of artist Nick Cave's regular letters where he responds to fans' questions. My dad and I enjoyed the letters so much we decided to create the Red Handophiles Podcast to discuss our thoughts and share it with you. You can read the Red Hand Files at www.theredhandfiles.com or follow the link in the show notes. Hello everyone, my name is Hannah Bevan and I'm with
Adam Bevan. Hi.
And today we are reading episodes 212 and 213 of the Red Hand Files by Nick Cave.
Bumper crop, double header.
So I'm going to jump straight into it. We got two to get through.
Yeah, let's hit it.
We have from Laura Richmond. Is it better to keep quiet or to speak one's mind? And we have from Ray in Luz. I have heard you mention good faith conversation several times now. What is a good faith conversation and how do you have one?
Yeah, I've heard him mention it too, and I haven't necessarily known or stopped to pause and think what a good faith conversation is, but he does explain, and I like it. I like it.
I do too. Me too.
Well, you want to...
I can. So the first line, a good faith conversation begins with curiosity. It looks for common ground while making room for disagreement. And that was as clear as day for me, saying that. And it's what is so often missing from conversations, full stop. Good faith conversations feel exceedingly rare. I can count on my hand the amount of people I feel like in my life I can actually have good faith conversations with.
Why? What happens that draws it away from being a good faith conversation?
I think there comes a point with most people where, one, they're not actively listening. A lot of people speak and they've already formulated their next response and they've disengaged from listening to you and what your actual words are. They've already conjured up something else to say. And two is often I find that I just am engaging in conversations with people that don't want to be moved, changed, be wrong, which is, I think, the cornerstone, as he said, making room for disagreement in there. And maybe it moves outside of respect in those spaces often. Still a space I'm navigating, I would say, very much so.
I think there's a reason why we're all still navigating that, and it comes at the end. But I like, just under that line, he goes on to talk about that it affords us, among other things, the great privilege of being wrong, and we feel supported in our unknowing and in the sincere spirit of inquiry, free to move around the sometimes treacherous waters of ideas. Nowhere, like in media, there is like a hunt on for people. There's a cancel culture. There is a lot of, and really it's because a lot of people that are out there on the forefront of being vocal with their ideas, whether it's in, there's so many, I won't even start to rattle off topics, but we all relate to it. There is a lack of people willing to be wrong. It's almost like we've gone out there and we only want people with strong opinions on the, left side and the right side. Not politically, just choosing some binary options, A and B, A versus B, and nobody's listening. Everybody, as you said, is thinking of what comes next. There's almost no space to kick
and
those
we want
ideas
people
around.
that have these hardcore perspectives to justify our own existence. Like, we don't want to leave room for being wrong.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't engage me. It doesn't interest me to even begin to have those conversations with people.
Mm.
Probably to a fault almost.
Well, maybe it's not a fault. I think something Nick responds with here is in complete harmony. I have learned, this in the second paragraph, Henry says, I've learned that it's best to retract, disengage, to change the subject once a conversation ceases to be in good faith. In general, I've found it to be a waste of time to expend too much energy on someone whose mind is fully made up, who does not understand the nature of conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's where I find myself most often.
Mm.
Good faith conversations are so rare. I don't want someone that's a sounding board of me, nor do I want someone that's the opposite of my opinion that's willing to be unchanged.
And normally we're safer with friendships because we've got some history. We've actually got some, cobblestone roads we traveled together, and those people know us, and we know they'd go to war for us. We know they love us or they respect us, whatever it might be, and them calling us out if we're wise or if we've learnt the art of conversation and our ego is in check most of the time. We could be pulled up and have a cause for reflection and even thrash it out a bit more, but safely. Maybe it requires safety because everybody's on the attack, and I don't like feeling attacked. Nobody does.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been having in my life many forced good faith conversations lately. This one speaks when I read this, I was like, woof, good timing.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, well, recently
Forced good faith conversations.
I would say so. It was definitely a new space to navigate, but something unfolded in a workplace which did not align with me in the slightest. And I guess when I entered that, I had to take away the anger, the hurt, the emotion, and try and engage in a conversation to understand their perspective and to hear mine, and perhaps no, I'm not going to move it completely. Speaking in very abstract terms, because I can't give away the details of what unfolded, it was very hurtful. But I had to move into that conversation just with the uttermost respect for that person that perhaps didn't grant that to me.
Yeah.
I had to engage in a really respectful, good faith conversation, take them to my understanding and my intellect and my wisdom, and treat them with that same level of respect when maybe inside I was actually just angry and wanted to be like, you did something bad and wrong. I had to move away from what was my definite immediate reaction and move into let's hear it.
Let's hear their side.
Yeah, yeah, I'll hear it, I'll respond. I guess it was, just giving that person the respect in that conversation that maybe I didn't feel when it first happened that they necessarily deserve. But I actually think everyone does deserve respectful conversations.
Especially if they're earnestly grappling with the subject and you're just not meeting mind to mind. And there are some people who come from very fixed situations. I've been there myself around certain things, views of God and morality, views of...
Yes.
Yep. And those kinds of things. And, below that you might take it away from God, but have political ideals, societal ideals in countries. Who hasn't, if anybody's moved to another country before where the culture is quite different, you even go through the idea of right and wrong around a cultural idea. And you can take that wrong. A lot of people bitch and moan about the culture that they're living in when they're there, because it just is so out of place to their culture and experience, but they can only see it through the lens of something akin to right and wrong.
Yeah, massively.
I put my foot up. I'm really grateful for it. When I lived in, as you know, Hannah, I've lived in a number of countries. And when I first moved to Japan, I was on the train and I put my foot up on the suitcase so that even though I was a distance away, I was away from the old man by a meter. But the bottom of my foot, which is offensive to Japanese, and he's got no other language in his cultural makeup other than, oh, you're being offensive. You've got the bottom of your foot facing me. And this 75-year-old plus old fellow whacked my foot really hard off of the suitcase and I nearly fell over. And of course I was like angry. And I was with Joel. I was with my friend, my relative, who'd lived there and knew the culture very, very well. And he sort of said, oh, you had your foot facing him. That's actually quite disrespectful here. So it was me, in my ignorance, offending somebody, had no idea whatsoever, And I think those ideas play out in conversation too. We're just old data repeating itself. We've got all these old ideas. We've got very little room for new ones. And in conversation, how to bring that to people who are not our friends and close to us, who don't have these well-worn grooves, that's an art and a spirituality, Ting! Yeah.
It's a gift to be wrong.
Yeah.
It's like truly a gift to be wrong that I think most people aren't engaging in being wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Not comfort. We haven't found comfort with it.
No. But we are wrong all the time. We have these tiny, insular little lives individually. And then there's another, I think there's 8 billion people on the earth now. Who are we to say we've got all the answers to that and that we haven't hurt people and said things that are offensive and just gotten things hella wrong?
Or when we arrive at an idea now that we hold up as morally true, correct, and eternally right, that just, let the world turn a couple of generations and you are now the outmoded ideas and people are looking back at you with some kind of horror. We're constantly cancelling out people who've come from another time when they were sitting right in the dead center of cultural ideas and morality, etc. And then it evolves and moves on. And no doubt those who are there and have primacy of place with the new ideas, the new morality, the decay is setting in before they know it. Next thing they're the outmoded, incorrect ideas.
Yeah.
He says here, Hannah, a good faith conversation understands fundamentally that we are all flawed and prone to the occasional lamentable idea, right? So if you have that humility stacked into your pile of conversation and thinking, it becomes common sense that you hold. I always talk about myself, not I'm holding myself up here for this, but that I'm trying to hold on to every idea I have gently. I hold on to them. I've gone through some pathways to get to these ideas, but I'm trying to hold on gently so that in the face of challenge or a better idea that I arrive at myself, it's easy to pass it off.
What's the last time you think that you were wrong?
Oh, the last time I was wrong.
Oh, not the last time, but give me an important one recently. Don't give me one from a decade ago.
Ooh. Recently.
I mean, I can give you plenty from a decade ago.
From me? Crucify me. Yeah.
My job.
Yeah, I suppose so. I'm grateful for it. Keep me honest. And then some. Oh, you've caught me on the hop. One that came to mind is from a long time ago, and would bring me into the realm of a so I was in China, which is actually going back like 7 years ago when I was living in Shanghai. And that's not a decade, Hannah. So I can't think of anything recently. So I'm scrounging around here. I'm in the scrap heap. But I did I was getting angry at the Chinese, who in some parts, it's 30 million people in the city. Every day I would get on a train to go to the office. It was on, and it felt like, riding human rapids. And I quite enjoyed it, but I didn't like when people invaded my space. And I remember this little old lady once shoved her money, as was common, but she just happened to get my breaking point. She shoved her money over the top of my shoulder, slapped it down. The person just gave her the ticket. And I mean, she clambered over me to get in front of me. And they're always pushing in over there. It's actually wonderful if you just learn to settle into it and be with it. But I was kind of like...
Oh, don't fight in China. Don't fight.
I was turning into Red Adam, and I ended up grabbing the money out of the hand of the ticket office girl, and I shoved it back into the middle of this woman's abdomen, bleated something out in English, looked like an absolute rude human, and I was talking about it indignantly to this American friend of mine who'd lived there and spoke Mandarin very, very well. And he's kind of like, that made you angry? I said, oh, man, they always... And I was... this woman was an old lady, but I shoved it back in. I just had a gutful. But it was just about my perspective on things. And I was really wrong. I felt bad after my friend said, and they don't mean anything, but that's just like normal here. You're abnormal. She wouldn't even understand what you did or why you did it. She would have gone, and he was crystal clear about that. And I began to think on that, and I just realized how hard it was to break my cultural constraints, which has actually been one of the things I look back on with some shame and with some laughter, is how I've held views bestowed from a religion that I couldn't step outside of because of the strength of the parameters, where you kind of pass off all of your belief to a higher authority who are telling you how to vote, even things that now are ridiculous to me, things that I'm like I said, I'm ashamed and also laugh at. I'm actually grateful for that journey, and I'm certainly have lamentable wrongs. But there's one. It's not recent, but they happen. I don't know, daily, certainly weekly. I'm wrong all the time. I look forward to it. Actually, I like the. Oh, I know one. I got out of. Oh, this is a beauty. I got out of a Muay Thai PT session, and I was feeling like, on. I'd been in there doing this pad work, banging away, and I come out feeling G'd up. I got into my car, and I was late to go pick up Willow my little daughter, and this guy in an Uber had parked in front of the driveway and I couldn't get out. So I was running a bit late. I knew that time was eroding and I was still sweaty and pumped. And he just looked at me and he went like, yeah, I won't be long. And he was on his phone doing something, maybe his next job. And I sat there and I probably got to 20 seconds, 15 seconds. And then I just, and I've got this big imposing black Ford Ranger and I just put my hand on the horn and started honking. Ah! Long story short, he looked at me and just sort of waved like, well, you can get stuff now, I'm not moving. He sort of waved his finger at me and was just like, I'm not moving. And I threw the door open and I was like in battle mode. And I went towards his car and I reached for the door handle. I don't know what I was going to do, but if one thing followed another. And he took off. And when I got in the car, it took me about 10 minutes to fully come to terms with the fact that I had just been stupid and angry. This wasn't conversation, but I was very wrong. I couldn't believe that somebody had moved my peace to the point of, imagine if he got out of the car, then I probably would have gone at him. And I'm thinking to myself, that's ridiculous, me having fisticuffs with somebody on the street, but I would have done it there in that mode. And that's, I'm ashamed of it. And I'm also kind of like, well, I don't know. It's good to know it's there, but not in that situation. The dog, it's like somebody let the dogs out. Not good enough, but I got to reassess. There's one I can remember fairly recently.
Right on.
To wrap it up on this one, I like his 3 points at the end there. A good faith conversation begins with curiosity, gropes towards awakening, and retires in mercy.
Mercy.
Somebody write that down. Make that one of those calendar quotes that you pull off, 15th of May.
15th of May it is.
Yeah. Put it in a calendar as a quote, daily quote, daily inspirational thought.
Retires in mercy. I love that.
Yeah, that's where we got to get to. So, retiring in mercy. Forgive me, Uber driver, and everybody else that I'm offended and yet to offend. I'm moving towards mercy and hope to die with a little more in my pocket than I have now. Let's go to the next question. Unless you've got something else to say, Hannah, on 212. All right. 213 from Nick Cave's The Red Hand Files. The question came from Denise in New York City in the US. Do you have tinnitus? Yes. I always heard it called like kid tinnitus, but do you have tinnitus?
Tinnitus.
What do you do when the ringing gets loud? I've had it for 15 years and have adjusted, but as I get older and seek more solitude, the cricket choir is always with me, blaring at top volume. I try to appreciate their alarm as the message, we are alive, but in a still and quiet house, they are very noisy guests who never leave. And then, from a little closer to our home, Frank in Moonbee, Australia, who is playing in the band with you and Warren for the Australian shows. Can't wait to see you in Tamworth. And for those who don't know, I'm actually a little bit envious that Frank is going to Tamworth to see Nick and Warren Ellis play, because Tamworth is our Nashville. It's kind of the home of Australian country music. We have a healthy, vibrant, I guess probably behind the Canadians, we might be in third place for a country music scene. It's pretty healthy here. I go along to the occasional muster myself, but yeah, love to see them in Tamworth and see the how it's taken amongst the inhabitants of Tamworth. But okay, Hannah, anything you want to talk about the crickets and the ringing in the ears, and any advice Nick shells out?
I mean, what I will say is I did love the rebranding of tinnitus as the choir of crickets. Makes it sound quite serene that can exist with you.
Yeah.
Love the idea of each night heading to bed and thinking that it's a choir of crickets. But the rebrand I'm into.
We've all gone to bed, not all, but many of us who go to live shows and things go home and you lay down and then you get a taste of that. Surely, right? You've laid on your bed and you've burnt your head and your ears a bit, and it's just like, I don't know what noise it makes for you, but it's, yeah. Uncle Dave, I think, suffers from something like that. He was working on heavy machinery a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And he suffers and can't even stand the television, poor devil, being up very loud, or leave a room if people are laughing and talking loud, because it's just
Yeah.
been so horrible, so terrible thing to suffer from. Was there any wisdom or camaraderie in the battle of the humans versus the crickets that you gleaned?
It's almost like, because he mentions in here, my tinnitus phase is yet to hit me. I'm sure it will with how loud I blast my headphones though.
Maybe. Be careful.
I know, but it's just too fun.
Uh,
But he says, if it is any consolation, that not only my cricket choir is singing loud and very clear, but Warren's too, and Larry and Colin's, and Wendy's and Janet's and TJ's, all our jury crickets singing their moronic and endless serenade back to you, you wonderful tortured person, in your quiet but noisy house in New York City. Like solidarity in the war of crickets.
I guess all he had to lend here. And for me, I must say that the only thing I really got out of this was one of those fun letters that he'd just come out of practice, so I guess it was relevant. He said he was having band practice in Melbourne, and he just says, Warren claims his tinnitus is so bad that other people can hear it. And then he goes on to say, I think this is nonsense and have told him so, but he says, the reason I can't hear his tinnitus is because my own tinnitus drowns it out. Boom, boom. And then at the end, start with the beginning, end with one, and start at the beginning with the joke and end with one. Denise and Frank, he goes on to say, P.S., don't try calling a tinnitus helpline. It just keeps on ringing. Now, the only thing I want to add to all that is, you got to have a healthy sense of humour sometimes with these things to deal with them. But I do think Nick's a very funny guy sometimes, and it comes out in these letters occasionally. The last show we did was moving and personal and dealt with the loss of, a brother and death and recovery. And here we are having a laugh about something there's not much you can do with, but learn to put up with it and rebrand it, as you said, Hannah. But yeah, I find Nick's sense of humour excellent. And from time to time, I'm of the opinion that even in his songs, I laugh. There are some songs, I know we relate to Nick in a different way, but I just think some of his lyrics are hilarious. When in No Pussy Blues, he talks about, clamoring for this woman's love and she won't put out physically. And he says, I even patted a revolting little chihuahua. Or I heard Oh My Lord this week just in my playlist in the car and Spotify, and I was laughing when he was just, talking about his trip to the hairdressers away from his family and the calling to God to help him. Go listen to it. Oh My Lord. And if you don't laugh, then Hannah will make you a delicious dinner at your home, won't you, Hannah?
Promise.
Promise.
That's a promise.
A promise you intend not to keep. Nor should you.
Yeah.
Nor should you.
Yeah.
I have nothing more to say. Do you have anything you want to?
That's me on the tinnitus front.
All right, me too. Well, thank you for listening. Like, subscribe. We have an Instagram page where you can check out some little bits and pieces we put up. You can follow us on YouTube.
YouTube us.
Yep. Your favorite podcast channel if you do podcasts, or I don't know, smoke signals. But I guess thank you for coming on this journey with us. We appreciate all the feedback and following and views and likes. We love it, and we love talking about these letters. They've meant so much to us. Hannah and I used to ring each other and talk about these, so we've brought it here to share with other people, and we're finding out there are other red handophiles, lovers of Nick Cave's red hand files. Thank you to Steve, our fabulous production man, who is really the third part of our troupe here. And I guess we look forward to seeing you next time. And good luck to Nick Cave and the rest of the team, Warren Ellis, for the Carnage Tour. We're looking forward to getting along ourselves. But bye from me, and bye from you too, hey.
Bye.
See you, folks.